Topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Eat and Critique Show with restaurant critics Steve-O and Sophia. Brought to you by one of Steve-O and Sophia's favorite Incontro Italian cuisine and steakhouse located on the Walk in Coral Springs. Now, sit back while award-winning restaurant critics Steve-O and Sophia share with you the good, the bad, and the ugly in South Florida dining.
Welcome. We have a very exciting show tonight. Welcome to the Eat and Critique with my host Steve-O and Sophia. Tonight we actually have the former White House chef, Chef John Moeller. He was the chef for both Bushes and Clinton from 1992 to 2005, 13 years. And I'm dying to ask him if he's the longest chef in the White House.
Do you know we have had Chef Moeller on our show 3 or 4 times, and the reason why, and I don't know if he even remembers this, every time he's come on our show, we have had so many people write us and tell us what a great expert having him on our show. He has got so many great stories, and he has a cookbook that is out of this world. He's got a wonderful restaurant in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
And a catering.
We can't leave out the catering, but just sit back. We are going to have some great White House stories for you. Let's welcome Chef John Moeller.
And I want to hear some of those secrets behind those doors. Thank you for coming.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
I was so excited to have you back again. I wanted to ask you about your book, the restaurant, your catering. We have so many questions to ask you. And I'm mostly impressed that you're from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and made your way as a White House chef. That is amazing. So we want to hear your story about that. Mm-hmm. Just everything. Yeah. We want to hear everything.
And people are so interested in your book, your cookbook, Chef. I just want you to know it's been out for a while, but people are still interested in it.
Oh, and I looked at the pictures and now I'm hungry. And your restaurant, it looks amazing. It's beautiful.
So, thank you. Yeah. The restaurant sits in an old farmhouse that dates back to 1780. It's one of the original farmhouses in its area. So there's a lot of neat historical parts of this whole restaurant here. Mm-hmm.
Hey, did you get to see the Northern Lights?
I did not. I've been kind of busy with catering, and so we've had a couple long days the last couple of weeks here with graduations and weddings, and the spring season is upon us here, so it's all good.
Yes, that's right. Well, Chef, tell people how you got started in the White House.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's what I did before I got to Washington that helped set this whole thing up. I mean, I was, I came from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, did a culinary program in high school, VOTEC, and I went to Johnson & Wales up in Providence, Rhode Island, 79 to 81, 82. And then in 84, I had a friend in Europe and decided to go over and see him. So I bought a one-way ticket to France and a backpack and said, let's see what happens. I ended up spending 2.5 years there. And it was a game changer. I mean, how they look at food and just going through the markets and how they treat food every day. It's such a cool thing. And I learned so much and spent 2.5 years there. Worked in a couple of fine restaurants. Actually, the first job I had in France was actually cutting grapes. I did the grape harvest in Burgundy, France, in a little town called Meursault. If you know anything about white Burgundies, they make some of the finest Chardonnays in the world. And
were you stomping grapes like Lucy did with Esther to make the wine?
Yeah, my big size 12 feet helped out a little bit. They liked the American guy doing it. And those French got small feet. But yeah, it was quite the time there. But I came back to the States, and then I had an opportunity to go down to the Virgin Islands. So in 86, 87, I spent a season down in St. Croix. And I left at the end of the season to come back north towards Lancaster, land in D.C. And that first afternoon I was there, I was off DuPont Circle and wandered into this French-style restaurant that I read about. And the chef was French-Belgian. He saw some of the places I worked in France, especially this one place. It was big time. His name was Bernard Loiseau, Hôtel de la Côte d'Or. He was on 2-star Michelin at that time, working on his third. And he saw his name, and it sealed the deal. He goes, if you work for him, you could work for me. So I said, what the heck? So within 3 days, I'm working full-time in D.C. 2 weeks later, in that summer of 87, he invited me out after service one night to go have drinks with all the French chefs in Washington. Well, we went to the Mayflower, and every French chef in Washington was there that night. I was the only gringo in the whole crowd. And became friends with these guys. And one guy I met that first evening, we go out and have that little networking beverage from time to time. And then one day I heard that he started working at the White House. That was 1990. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Pierre's at the White House. And then in 1992, Pierre called me up and said, hey, John, I don't know if you know or not, but I've been here at the White House for the last 2 years. Now I'm up as a sous chef. Now I'm up as a chef position, and I'm looking for someone to be my sous chef. Would you be interested? So let me think about this. Absolutely. I mean, holy crap. I mean, what do I got to do, So when we sat down to talk about it, he said, there's 5 chefs who work full-time in the White House. You have 2 in the pastries and 3 in the cooking. He says, I'm French born, but yet to be American citizen to work full time, which he was. The pastry chef was French born too, but an American citizen. He says, I could bring another Frenchman in that's an American citizen, but I think it's too many French people. So what I'm looking for is an American that knows something about French cooking. So that little séjour in France is what set me apart from the other candidates. And I started in 1992 at the last year of George H.W. Bush's administration, rolled into 8 years with the Clintons, and then 5 years of George W. Bush.
Were you married at the time?
Well, when I started the White House, yes. And I had just had my first son. He was born in 91, and I started in 92. Yeah. I got married in 89 in the D.C. area. Mm-hmm.
It must have been rough. I mean, that's a lot of hours, isn't it? Mm-hmm. How'd you balance work and life, your regular...
It was like all over the place because there's only a couple of us. I mean, there was no taking off there. I mean, if the school called and said, Alex has got a runny nose, I can't leave. So after I got into it and got things going, I pretty much said to the wife, why don't you just stay home, take care of the kids? Because I cannot leave what I'm doing at the time there. So she pretty much became a stay-at-home mom, worked a little here and there doing some stuff, but for the most part was just at home for the next dozen years or so, and then slowly went back into the workforce there. Mm-hmm. But
Jeff,
Christmas time was when I got crushed.
Do you remember going through the White House gates for the first time?
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, when I went there to look for the job and was interviewing, and then the moment I got called back, and I sat in what's called the map room on the ground floor, and the chief usher and Pierre the chef, we sat there and go, well, we would like to offer you the job. And I was like, really? They're offering me the job here? And they looked at me like, well, you have to accept it, So I accepted, and we talked about this, that, and the other, and what's going to be needed. We had to set up the FBI background check, and that took 3+ months, But I remember just walking through the gates and just tingling, going, oh my goodness, I can't believe this actually happened. This is going to be a game changer. I just said, wow, this is really going to be something, And boy, I had to set up. A week later, I was meeting with the FBI. They were going through my whole background. They want to know everything about your life for 15 years or to your 18th birthday. And I was 30 years old. So guess what? It's about the same. And all the traveling I did, living in Europe and stuff. I said to guys, I mean, I don't even know if I can find these addresses. I lived, as an employee flat, some restaurants and hotels and here and there. He goes, hey, we have field offices all around the world. We will check you out. So, man, fortunately, my parents held on to letters that I sent to them when I was in France, and I was able to get these addresses. And so it took a few days, and there was no internet back there to search stuff. I mean, we had to, just do it on your own. So it was called a questionnaire for sensitive positions. And
So,
once I got the 3-4 months later, they called up, said your security clearance is good and you're ready to start. And I went to my boss at the hotel I was working at, the Westin Hotel, and I said, "Hey, just let you know, I got this job, but it's going to be at least 3 or 4 months." And when after I explained everything, they were so excited. They're like, "Wow, it's on your schedule. Just let us know. We're so proud to be able to have somebody from our hotel moving over to the White House." So it was an interesting summer from the time I accepted it until I started in September. Mm-hmm.
wow.
You know what everybody wants to know, Chef, is when you became the chef there, do you come up with your own recipes, or does the president and the first lady tell you what they want to eat that day?
Pretty much it's our job. They're so busy. I see their schedules every day. The president, first lady schedules put down on our desk by 7 a.m. Monday through Friday, POTUS and FLOTUS, and it's packed all day long. So it's up to us to offer suggestions. So by Thursday, we would offer suggestions for lunch and dinner. Breakfast are a little bit on their own, and for the week coming up. And then we run it that way. I mean, and then also it was a banquet house. We all the official functions that happened at the house, they would give us a list of what's coming down the pike, and then we'd have to give menu proposals, send them over to the office of the first lady. Of course, the first person who sees it is the social secretary. Once she goes over, if she has any questions, she'll get back to whoever wrote them and ask any questions. When she feels they're ready to be presented to the first lady, they go for it, and then we wait for the the thumbs up or thumbs down. Majority of times it's thumbs up. It's the state dinners they will criticize a little bit and really want to get it right, protocol, all these type of things. There's a lot of we usually have about 3 to 4 months notice on a state dinner, so we'd have to come up with whatever it's going to be and submit these ideals. Most of the time we would have a dry run for a table of 10 with the menu. Also, the florist department is a big deal too. Be honest with you, we spend more money on flowers for a dinner than we do actually for food. I mean, the floral arrangements and the type of tablecloths, the napkins, what type of china we're going to use, all the color coordinations of all that stuff. The florist, the head florist was constantly on edge as the head chef was trying to figure out what are we going to do next year, But it was also extraordinary time to be basically playing with your food all the time, looking at all these different ingredients and bouncing them around and coming up with new ideals. But menu writing was the toughest part of what we did because we had the same customers every day, and they happen to be the president and first lady, and they bring people to dinner like kings, queens, and prime ministers. So
Exactly.
It was game on all the time. Mm-hmm.
So when dignitaries would come to town, do you find out what their favorite dishes are, or do you come up with your own?
Well, the visiting head of state, they would their embassies would forward to the State Department dietaries, likes, dislikes, allergies, religious considerations, and then that would be forwarded to us. And I wouldn't start if it was a menu that I was doing, I would never start writing the menu until I got that because something's always out of left field about this, that, and the other. So it was kind of interesting. I think it was 2003 or so. I can't remember which prime minister of Italy was there at that point in time, but the dietary said does not eat garlic, onions, and tomatoes.
Oh.
I said,
he's Italian?
He's Italian? There's no way. He's an imposter, And then I started thinking about it. I know how these guys work. They're like, probably everywhere he goes, they dump onions, tomatoes, and garlic on everything. And so they're like, hey, when I'm out and about, just tell them I don't eat that stuff. Yeah, I want to try something different, So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case in this situation, But that was kind of a funny one. Mm-hmm.
That's very funny, being Italian and not eating garlic or onions or
no
tomatoes.
pasta or something.
So were there themes then when they had the dignitaries there? Did they have a theme to know what colors and china and flowers? And how did you come up with that?
Mm-hmm. Well, that was the florist department, and she would stress over that and try and figure out how many guests it was, what plate settings they think would be appropriate for whatever situation it is, from all the different patterns that are used over the years there, and then the time of the year, of course, had something to do with it, and then how try and color coordinate that. So look at the menu, look at the time of the year, look at maybe some colors. Cherry blossoms or something like that might be part of if the Japanese were coming. You would look at like little themes like that on our own. The only thing they would ask them is what type of entertainment you would like. What type of things you enjoy, and they would try and correlate the entertainment that's after the dinner in the East Room for that part of the night. It was kind of interesting. President Havel from Czechoslovakia was there in like 97 or something like that, 98. And they had asked him what type of music he liked. And he said, I always like Lou Reed. Well, guess what? We had Lou Reed came and did a state dinner,
Oh my God.
And you know what? One of my best friends was in the Lou Reed band, Moose, the bass player.
See if he was there that time there, and they were playing
so.
they were playing the Wild Side and everything that night,
Who did you was there a big difference in cuisine versus one president to the next?
There were some subtle things, but for the most part, they were all very health conscious about what they ate on a day-to-day basis, because when they're out on the road or eating at these dinners, traveling around the world, they're exposed to a lot of high caloric foods. So when they ate by themselves, they didn't want to see butter dripping off the vegetables, no cream soups. We really throttled back. I was more of a dietitian, I was also, like a private chef working in pretty good public housing for the most part too. We were very careful on the caloric value of the foods that they were consuming on a day-to-day basis. We always thought about, it was always healthy eating. For the most part, Mm-hmm.
What were your hours? Like, what happens if, let's say, Chelsea wanted something like at 10 o'clock at night to eat? Were you still there, or how did that work?
Well, not necessarily. What usually happens, where somebody's in there, maybe depends what president it is. Like, be honest with you, the Bushes got up very early in the morning. They were up 4:30 in the morning, and usually had breakfast around 6 a.m. And then he was heading over to the Oval Office 6:15, 6:30 to get the overnight briefings and all that kind of stuff there to get his day started. The First Lady too had breakfast with him too at 6 a.m. before they get the day started. The Clintons got up; they were a little bit more 7:30, 8 o'clock. But so somebody be there anywhere from 5:30 to 6:30 for the daytime to do breakfast or lunch, and then if you're on dinner, and this is if nothing's going on in the house, just the families there, then somebody may come between 12 and 1 and work the dinner shift. So that's usually how that worked. And then at dinner time, we usually started with a first course. Most of the time it was a salad, sometimes a soup, depending on the time of the year and all the good stuff. And they have an entree, and then there's some type of a dessert. So it was 3 courses for the most part. They didn't want to go overboard on that. And by the time they finished and got up from the dining room table, and this is on the second floor. The second floor is actually where they live. The first floor has all the ceremonial rooms, the state dining room, the green room, the red room, blue room, the east ballroom. But above that is the family quarters. And so while we're up there serving them, once they get up from the dining room table, then I would take my stuff out of the second floor, go back down to the ground floor to the main kitchen and kind of clean up. The butlers would be up there cleaning what little bit of plates and silverware and glassware and what have you. And then when I'm completely cleaned up and I put my orders in for the next day, then I'd always call up to the butler pantry and say, hey, just checking, everything looks good. Yeah, everybody seems to be settled in. All right, just let you know I'm leaving. And the only other time that we would probably get a request would be for, a movie night. They say, hey, we want to see a movie in a movie theater. And so I would get my tabletop pot there and start popping popcorn and put them in little bags and have some no salt, some light salt, maybe a little bit of light butter, and then the butler would pick that up and take it over to the where they can watch the movie in the movie room. So when they're done at the end of the night, to answer the question, they usually are pretty good. On that second floor, there was a small kitchen that we worked out of, and we would keep some light snacky things there. Sometimes they say, hey, I really like that soup. Why don't you save that in the fridge? So I'd wrap it up and keep it in there. So once in a while, there might be something in the sink that has to be cleaned up in the morning, but for the most part, they were usually pretty good until the next day there.
Sounds so normal.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it does.
Chef, we had Gary. I don't know if you ever met Gary Burns. He was the Secret Service agent for Mrs. Clinton, and
Uh-huh.
he had some of the funniest stories about Mrs. Clinton. And
Uh-huh.
do you have any funny stories you could share?
Well, we would just take care of on a day-to-day basis. I mean, when I first got in there, it was kind of funny because the one chef there was three of us in the kitchen. The head chef was Pierre, and we're just getting our feet wet with him. And the one, and this is in January of 93. The other chef became ill. I mean, he got really ill and couldn't be in there for about a week or so. So Pierre turned to me and said, "Well, you're on family. Yeah, you're gonna have to take care of all the family while I'm working with the social office and things, trying to fill them out and getting all the upcoming events going." So I was pretty much in there doing breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the first week or so. And so I'm up on the second floor and taking care of them. And I'd see her at breakfast, and then we talk about lunch, and then I'm back at dinner doing that. And this went on for like a week or so. And then Mrs. Clinton came in the kitchen one day and goes, "John, you're like the only person I see here. Is anybody else working in that kitchen down there?" I said, "Oh, yeah. I said, and I didn't want to say the other guy was sick. I just, it was just the way the schedule went on getting you guys going here, we just happened to seem to run into each other all the time." And so it was kind of a funny moment there. I was like, no. She goes, it's just the way she says, "Is there anybody else working down that kitchen?" And a couple months earlier, I mean, Chef Pierre I don't know if he was clairvoyant or not, but I don't know if you remember, the day after Bill Clinton became President-elect Clinton in the November of 92, Alice Waters put out a full-page ad in the New York Times and some other newspapers saying that, "Hey, congratulations on your win, this, that, and the other," but also that America has come a long way with dining and food. And when you get to the White House, it's time that we got rid of all these European-born chefs. And it's about time that the White House had an American-born chef working in there. And so we're like, what could possibly happen? We did not know what was going to happen, because when I got the job there on that first day, the other thing he told me was the chief usher is that you serve to the pleasure of the president. And what that meant was us as resident staff, we were government employees, but we were not on the GS pay schedule. We were not civil servants. We had no job protection. If a new president comes in, he can do whatever he wants with the house to make his time as comfortable as possible while he's there. He can bring his own chef, his own maid, his own butler. He can do whatever. It usually doesn't happen, but the warning was there. So with all that going on, we had no communication during the time that George H.W. Bush was there. The transition team has not started what they had to do inside the house. We had nobody to talk to. So we had no idea. Are they going to bounce us when we get in there? They could, but it didn't happen. But it was about a year later that Pierre decided, the relationship wasn't quite the same as it was with George H.W. Bush. And so he said, I think I'm just going to move on and go from there. And that's when they brought in Walter Scheid. But if you recognize that name,
yes,
Chef Walter Scheid took over after the first year that Pierre was there, and then continued with the rest of the years with the Clintons, and then on through with George H.W. Bush until he left in I think it was 2005 or so. Mm-hmm.
You have an incredible cookbook. What are some of your favorite dishes in there?
The name of the cookbook is Dining at the White House.
Dining at the White House. It's a memoir, and it talks about my humble beginnings here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and my little world tour of France and the islands and everything else, and then ending up in Washington D.C. and my interaction with the three families. Food-wise, I decided to take the menu cards that they write. We have a calligraphy department there that does all the invitations and the place cards by hand. And they also do the menus, and a menu that's probably about it's like maybe a 6x4 card that's put at every place setting on a very thick stock piece of cardboard is the menu. And I was pretty vigilant. I have about 450 of them I saved during the time I was there. So I laid them all out. And I picked out the ones that I did myself and wanted to give a little broad spectrum of different menus. So I used that as my recipes. And I was actually the first White House chef to do that. The other chefs seemed to put in family recipes from the day-to-day meals. I did not do that. I decided to showcase these menu cards, which is kind of a little bit of Americana history. It shows the reason for the dinner, if it's a head of state or some other event that's going on there, and go from there. I think there's one of the pictures I sent to you is a picture with Julia Child. I'm not sure if you have that handy or not, but exactly there.
We're showing it right now.
Yeah, she popped in there one day, and it was kind of ironic. I was in charge of this menu. It was called the Sara Lee Frontrunners Awards Luncheon. It was like in 1999 or so, and it just, I made the menu, sent it in. It was like in November of 97, 98 or whatever. It was 99, I think it was actually. And it just sailed right through, and no issues. And I just was knocking it out like we normally do. If it's your menu, you are the chef of the day. You're in charge of everything, execution and getting it all done. Well, as I'm pushing to get it from the ground floor kitchen, one story above, right above the ground floor kitchen, is the state dining room. And that's where the meal was going to be. And I'm moving up to there to get things going. And then a butler came in the kitchen and said, Julia Child just walked in the dining room. I'm like going, what the? I mean, doesn't anybody ever tell me anything here? I mean, I was stricken. I freaked out. I mean, yes, I've served a lot of kings, queens, and prime ministers, but we're talking about Julia Child. So I started looking at everything thinking, oh my God, is everything going to be okay? And then I shook it off and just did what we normally did. And so we served the meal. After the meal was done, we were back down in that ground floor kitchen of that picture you just saw. All of a sudden, around the corner comes this lady and goes, hello. And she wanted to come down. I want to thank you for a job well done. I really enjoyed the meal. We chatted for a moment. And this is we didn't have smartphones that time, but fortunately, one of the cooks that were working there had a camera and took a shot out of it and gave it to us. And that was the crew that we had at that point in time there. And so that was a good day. And what was also kind of cool was a few days later, there was it was later that week. One of the ushers on duty said, hey, John, that was your luncheon you did when Julie was here. I said, yes. He said, you might want to see this letter. So I looked at it. I said, wow, that's pretty cool. It was a letter from Julia Child addressed to Mrs. Clinton. And she pretty much stated, hey, dear Mrs. Clinton, thank you for inviting us over to your beautiful White House for this lovely luncheon for the Sara Lee Frontrunners Awards. And I just have to say, I've been there several times since the LBJ administration where everything was beautifully handled. During subsequent visits, I was not as impressed. But when I arrived for this luncheon, I found the place sparkling, the servers attentive, and the food delicious. It was a very heartwarming experience. Thank you so much, Julia Child. And I said, wow, that's pretty cool. Can I make a copy? And then also there was a letter from Mrs. Clinton that was being responded back to her, thanking her for her kind words. And so I got a copy of that too. So I start the book off with that day and those couple letters that you can see. So like I said, that was a good day.
That's very that unbelievable to be a chef and to meet her. How long did it take you to write the book? The cookbook?
It was just over 2 years. I was a little surprised that sometimes I was like, man, at one point I was like, is this thing ever going to become a reality? But we released it in September of 2013. So it's been over 10 years already since it's been out. So we've had a few printings. After the pandemic, you don't really see it so much in the Barnes and Nobles anymore. So Amazon is a way to get it. If you want it personally signed, you can contact me through the restaurant or through State of Affairs Catering. I have a website there that people contact me. The Greenfield Restaurant, info at Greenfield Restaurant, or John at the Greenfield Restaurant. And you can fill out the information. Say, hey, can you sign this book? And I can ship it to you in a heartbeat. It's not a big deal. And we can take care of that. And it's 44. It's 44 right now. Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's a big book.
I had to jump I had to jump at $5 last summer.
Not just recipes, it's a biography and history and I'm going to get one.
Chef, did you ever have, with all the dignitaries and the stars that you served, did anyone ever ask you, oh, I love that. Can I get your recipe?
Not necessarily. I mean, we're not like paraded out after dinner. Hey, we want to thank the chefs and things like that.
Right.
That usually happen, But we once in a while, Mrs. Rodham, Mrs. Clinton's mother, would she asked me for a few recipes, and actually I have them still. I typed them on White House stationery and gave it to her. I kept a copy for myself, so I have it.
Right.
On the cover of the book, if you notice, there's a dessert. It's a flourless chocolate torte. And, I was a chef there, not a pastry chef. And when the publisher showed me that, I was not happy. I said, I don't want people to think I was a pastry chef there, or this is a book about pastries in the White House. Or the French pastry chef that was working there the whole time. He's come out with quite a few books. Unfortunately, he's left us about a year and a half ago or so. But Roland Mesnier was a master at what he did. And I did not want to give people false presence of what this book was about, that I was a chef there. So I was not happy. And so I voiced my disapproval of it. And then a couple of days later, I went back to the publisher's office, and then we hooked up a conference call with the design team, who was out of Portland, Maine. And they said, all right, John, we understand your concerns, but we have a few questions for you. I said, go for it. First of all, is that your recipe? I said, yes, it is. Did you serve it at the White House? I said, yes, I did. And it has a great story. Says we worked pretty hard to find something to bring this the cover together, and we would like to stick with it. So as you can see, I lost the battle and got on there, but it was I don't know how much time we have, but it was a very interesting story how that came about. And when the President First Lady go to Camp David, we usually don't get involved with it. The Navy maintains the cabins and does the food service when he's up there. And except for if there's a visiting head of state up there, then we would be up there serving. And I always like going up there. It was pretty cool to go someplace that nobody ever sees and take care of it. But on a weekend in February of like 2000, there again, 3 or 4 it was, that George W. went up to Camp David on 5 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. They always come back at 2 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, and we come and get ready for dinner. Well, on that Saturday morning, I was just being a dad in the stands, watching my youngest playing basketball, and the phone rings, and I see it's the usher's office. I answer the phone, and the only words out of the usher's mouth was, "The president's coming back at 11:30, and there's 6 for lunch. Click." I go, I don't know what's going on, but so I went and grabbed Junior off the floor. We jumped in the car to drive back. And I lived outside Rockville, Maryland. I'm a good half an hour drive to get down there. And as I get in the car to drive down, there's a local radio station called WTOP, News, Traffic, and Weather. And that's the only station I ever listened to, mainly for the traffic, to listen and see what's going on. Well, when I turned the car on, the first news that came up was the Space Shuttle Columbia had just crashed on reentry. And so I said, oh my goodness, I said, no wonder he's coming back to the White House. He probably wants to make a statement from the Oval Office and not Camp David. So now I know why he's coming back. I just don't know what I'm going to do for lunch, So I get back in there. Long story short, it's 5 minutes to 11 when I get there. I got 35 minutes to get this thing out. And we don't keep lots of food sitting around on weekends when they're not there. We try to buy fresh all the time, every day if possible. But I got in there, had a little bit of chicken stock, so I made a quick chicken tortilla lime soup, and thank goodness for quesadillas. You can put anything in those things, get it going, a little salsa, and by 11:30 I was on that second floor with lunch. 11:40 they had lunch, the 6 of them, and then after lunch was over with, Mrs. Bush, Laura Bush, came back in the kitchen and said, "Oh, John, thanks for coming on such short notice. Lunch is great. We really appreciate it, and we feel so horrible about what happened today. So we're talking about the shuttle tragedy for a moment." And then she turned to me and said, "Oh, John, by the way, we're going to be 18 for dinner tonight." And of course, the only thing I could say was, "Yes, ma'am." So I go back downstairs. And I squeeze this lunch out for 6, but I don't have food for 18 or so. So I grabbed the engineer. I said, "We get our van. I'm riding shotgun." So we drove over to Whole Foods, Safeway, went to the fish market on the waterfront. And I just grabbed ingredients. As long as I have ingredients, I'll figure it out. So I'm back there banging this thing out, and I'm the only one to answer the phone. Nobody else came in. I didn't have time to call anybody, but I'm thinking, dessert. What I'm going to do for dessert. So I'm scrambling around. There's nothing for me to use. So I thought about this recipe that I said, I got these metal ring molds. Maybe I'll make it, pipe it in there, put this, that, and the other. Done. I'm not thinking about anything else. So I banged it out. I plated it. It looked pretty. It looked exactly like you see on the cover here. I had an almond tuile cookie, raspberry sauce, fresh fruit. And after I served the meal, the butler, did the dessert. The butler came in the kitchen and said, they want to know if the pastry shop came in and did the dessert tonight. I said, no, I took care of it. He said, well, they want to see out in the dining room. So I went to the dining room and got a round of applause. And I'm on the second floor, a private dining room with them. And they said, hey, John, dinner was great. We really appreciate it. But did you do the dessert? I said, yes, I did. He said, well, we loved it. What was in it? How'd you make it? So I'm answering all these questions and went back to the kitchen. I'm cleaning up my mess to go back downstairs. And the butler came back again and said, they want to see you out in the dining room again. So I went back out again, and I got another round of applause, and the presents on one end of the table, ladies on the other, and next to the first lady was her good friend Penny, and she said, John, tell me one more time, how did you make that dessert? So I explained it again. I said, Penny, you're here often, just stop by the kitchen, I'll give you the recipe, or I'll even make it for you, give you a little demo. So I said, I think that one's a good one. I'm not going to change it anytime soon. So that's not on the cover of the book.
Did they ever send a helicopter out to get you if you were way away and you had to get back right away? Can you see them come out with a presidential helicopter to pick them up?
No, I was always able to get in time. I always got back enough time to make those quesadillas, So it was always good there,
Well, I know that Sophia has been dying to ask you a question about Miss Clinton. And I think now's the time to do it.
Well, it was a while ago when she walked into the kitchen. I was hoping his back wasn't to her, and I'm glad he's not alone. Did you hide the knives?
She's been wanting to ask you this since our last show.
Well, I had Secret Service protection,
so enemies.
No, we would. I keep most of the knives down in the main kitchen anyway. We always felt pretty safe. I was. We did have Secret Service protection too. There,
Yeah.
Yes. I guess we should get to the restaurant so we don't run out of time, so we can advertise his restaurant and the catering.
The name of the restaurant's the Greenfield Restaurant and Bar.
Yep. It's been around since 1979 in this old building. That's like I had mentioned. It's an old farmhouse, dates back to 1780. There's a really cool, we call it the wine cellar. You go down, there's only a couple tables there, but it's like stepping back in time. It is really the place is held true to the time that it was built. It's pretty cool. And we have a big parking lot, but it's nice to come in and out of. It just spoke to me when I saw it back in 2018. So that's when I took this over. I had a catering business, and I still run the catering, State of Affairs Catering and the Greenfield Catering together. And also I travel around the country. I was down. I might be in South Florida again next year. I go down to Ocean Reef Club often and do some cooking classes and a wine dinner. I was on Fisher Island doing a small dinner back in February for a group of folks, and I've done some other stuff there. Go to different country clubs in South Florida during the wintertime, and do a steak dinner, so recreate a.
You are a busy man.
You have to let us know when you come back to South. I saw you were in, I think, Coral Gables for your book signing.
I was there a few years ago before the pandemic hit there, and been over at the Royal Ponciana Club in Naples. I did something there a few years ago. So it's always enjoyed going that sort of South Florida, especially in the wintertime there.
Yes, especially from Lancaster, all the snow. You're gonna.
I'm not gonna lie though. Back in January, it was kind of chilly. I was down there in Lauderdale and Hollywood area, and I was like, "What is going on?" It was cool and rainy and just the sun hardly came out. It was little. My friend that lives there said, "This is not a normal January." It was a little bit off in that respect. I came back in February to go to go to the Fisher Island, and it was a lot better then. But that January was not a great month for you South Floridians.
Well, that's why we know there's going to be a lot of hurricanes this year, most likely, because it was.
Oh, does it? Yeah.
Before we get out,
guys, that you can sidetrack all those. Mm-hmm. It's always scary. Mm-hmm.
I looked at your wine listing. It's amazing. Opus 1 and my sister's favorite wine, the Rombauer, is on there. That's kind of hard to get. And I saw some unusual things like a mango Cosmo and a short rib egg roll. It seemed like, is your wife Asian, or how did you come up with or mango because you've been in Florida so many times, maybe.
Yeah, there's had mangoes from South Florida. Actually, when I was in the Virgin Islands, that's when I was first exposed to it back in '97. I mean '87. I mean, when those mango trees start dumping, they start producing them. I was amazed how many mangoes are on a tree, and they were just unbelievable. Unbelievable, yeah. But there's definitely a little influence from Southeast Asia, and we do some different things like that. So the steak is a short rib that's braised out, and then we mix it with sautéed onions and some a nice sharp cheddar cheese, and then rolled in spring roll, and they got like a spicy ketchup to go with it. So it's a favorite little appetizer. And then the calamari, I played around with it because Mrs. Bush, Laura Bush, liked fried shrimp, so I was kind of come up with some different flour mixtures, and actually I used the masaca flour that you make corn tortillas with, because they like their fresh corn tortillas. I used to make fresh corn tortillas for them when I did Tex-Mex stuff, and they absolutely love that. So I did that. I mixed it with some flour and some seasoning stuff, and that masaca flour works out real good. So I dust my calamari with that and flash fry it, and have spicy aioli for that one there. So people enjoy that there. And just trying, and of course, Lancaster County, with all the Amish around here, you have no idea how good it gets. From almost this point forward, the local stuff starts coming in. But by July, August, September, October, and going into November, I use as much local as I can. If you would follow me around in the morning, I'm going to all these different farms, Amish and non-Amish, and it's just wonderful to get all these great products that are right at my fingertips, that are all made from the original organic farmers.
Well, I cannot thank you enough for coming on. And as always, we tell you, we can't wait to have you back on again. Let's tell people one more time how they can order your cookbook.
Well, you can obviously just go through Amazon, but if you want to get it personalized, you can contact me through the Greenfield Restaurant. You can go to the website and just fill out the information page, and that would get to me, or John at thegreenfieldrestaurant.com, or John at SOAcatering.com. Those are my two business addresses and my two businesses that I operate out of, and trying to keep it going for a couple more years here. I'm not throwing in the towel yet.
And the hours and days of his restaurant, even though we have it scrolling, but
yeah, well, we do Tuesday through Saturday right now. Sunday brunch got kind of 86th after COVID here, but so lunch and dinner Tuesday through Saturday. And we have a beautiful patio that we're just decking out right now with all the summer flowers, and so people love enjoying a meal or a beverage out there, and try to make it as real as possible. It's a very enjoyable place. I'm very proud to have establishment like this to work my craft.
Thank you,
Chef. Thank you so much for coming on with us today, and hey, good luck with all your travels, and hopefully next time you come down to South Florida, we'll have you on the show live.
We'll see you live.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to that. Hey, have a great night. I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chef.
He's such a great guy. He really is. He's, imagine all the stories he has.
I wanted to ask for some of the secrets that happen behind those doors. Maybe he's not.
But you got to ask the one about the knives with Clinton.
I did.
Oh my God. See, he was fine with it.
Yes, he was. I was a little nervous. He might not be happy with that, but
no, he's
he had a sense of humor at least. Hope I didn't offend any of our listeners.
Oh, the ones who like Clinton, I guess. You're down here in South Florida. We've got some weather coming in. That's what was affecting. I think, yeah.
I do too. We're getting ready to have a bad storm, and maybe Pennsylvania had it because he kind of cut out a few times as well.
He's just a great guest to have on. And
he was fun.
His book is amazing. And oh, by the way, we had somebody win the gift certificate to Reno's.
Yes, we did.
Did you know that?
Yes, I sent that.
The second person.
Oh, a second?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Who?
A listener. She wrote in. I got her.
You get her address so I
she
can mail it?
said, I need your address.
All right, good.
Yeah, isn't that cool though?
That's great.
Yeah.
Congratulations, whoever you were. But
I've got it on my phone. I forgot her.
that's
But anyway, she's sending
exciting.
me her address, and we'll get it off to her.
Exciting.
Yeah, she's really excited about going to Reno's.
It's a nice restaurant. And you know what? I'm going to buy that chef, his cookbook, because I was looking through it. I just found it. I mean, it has a lot of stuff in there. It has pictures, not only recipes, but like the history of the presidents, just all kinds of. And I read that his favorite star that when he walked down and saw was Sophia Loren, and he said he was starstruck by her.
You know, we both
I
forgot.
wanted to ask him, but
Yeah.
we ran out of time. I wanted to ask who some of the
Sandy
dignitaries was.
Salzman Jacoby
Okay.
is our winner of the
Yay.
of Reno's. Oh, she
Yeah.
loved that. And I asked her to give me her address.
Okay, that's amazing. Good.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
And
Sandy.
you know what? We forget to do this all the time. Oh, look at it. It's getting ready to storm. Go to our website, which is www.eatandcritiquetvshow.com and sign up.
No, there's a YouTube link on the first page at the bottom. Will you please click on the link and sign to subscribe to our show, to our YouTube? And we have 5 minutes left.
That might have been 5 minutes ago, though.
No, she just put it up.
Oh,
We have 4 minutes now.
you know, we got a quick story. We went to a restaurant called Rotel's.
Rotelli's Pasta
in
in
Boynton.
Boynton.
And, you know, I tell you, you never know who's going to walk into your restaurant, like us walking into our restaurant. We had such a horrible experience there. I mean, tell them.
All right, so I ordered a pizza. She told me it was going to be $25. We're running out of time, so I'm going to talk real fast. And I got there and she charged us $30 for a large pizza. When I asked about it, she said, no, I didn't tell you that. Well, you were in the car, you heard it. I had it on speaker. I ordered half mushroom and half olives, and then the other half of the pizza meatball. So I get there, I open it up to make sure it was right. And I had 2 slices of mushroom on almost half a pizza. There was 1 slice that had nothing on it. So I asked about it and they didn't care. They just kind of ignored me. But meanwhile, here's this lady on the phone listening to everything. And then finally, as I was leaving, I just said, you're going to lose a lot of business if you don't care, you don't want to fix it, and I'm not coming back. And it turned out it was the owner. And she just didn't care about it. But
So we always share the good, the bad, and the ugly with you. And we've got a heck of a storm coming in.
So we will see you. The lightning's bad. So we're going to sign off. See you next Monday.
No, we're
What?
not. We're going to run this show. Next Monday is Memorial Day.
Oh, it is?
So we're going to run this show next Monday also.
We won't see you next Monday. No. Thank you for listening. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Be kind to each other, please.
Stay out of this weather.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Rebel.
Thanks, Rebel. Good night.
You've been listening to the Eat and Critique Show with your hosts, award-winning restaurant critics, Steve-O and Sophia, brought to you by Incontro Italian Cuisine and Steakhouse, located in Coral Springs on the Walk. Be sure to join us again next week as Steve-O and Sophia interview top local restaurant owners and chefs. Steve-O and Sophia are known for their pure honesty when it comes to reviewing local restaurants. See you next week.
Yay, I'm so excited.